Hello, hello.
Good morning, superstars.
Woo! There are so many superstars out there in the audience. You are amazing. Just reminding you in case you forgot.
There you go. There's your happy little cup of Julietta for the day.
Part of that comes from, I don't know if I told you this story. I've told some people this story, but you know, one day I was in my office doing my healing sessions, and people typically come to me because they have some kind of physical pain. And my guide said to me, like, you think your job is to support them in releasing their physical pain. Your real job is helping them step into their greatest self. And the pain is just an obstacle to them getting there. It's just a distraction from them getting there. And so, yes, my job is here to remind you that you are amazing, you are love, you are light, and if you need help getting rid of anything that gets in the way of you seeing that and understanding that and knowing that, come see me. I'll help you.
I love that. We're speaking the same language, but different dialects. You know what I mean? Like for me as a photographer, I asked my friends the other day, like, what do you think I bring to the table, right? Like I'm trying to figure out my next step in my business and this sort of thing. And the feedback that I got was that people feel really comfortable just being themselves in my space and et cetera. And I was like, you know what? That feels really good. And you notice that none of that type of commentary had anything to do with photography. So photography is just the pathway, to get with people that need to hear and feel and see the message of living authentically, right? That's my ultimate goal. But we were talking about us going through our own journeys, right? And then seeing people at all different stages of the path. And then I ran across this quote the other day. Can I share that with you?
Yes, yes, yes.
It was so fascinating because it took me like 3 reads to get it. It says, when you try to wake someone up, you're asleep. When you let them sleep, you're awake. And it's credited to Feel Good. That's kind of a funny name, isn't it? Feel Good. Right?
Feel good.
Yeah. I don't know who that is.
Is that his real name or is it not?
I don't know, but I thought it was so interesting. I think I did find this on TikTok. So when you try to wake someone up, you're asleep. And when you try to let them sleep, you're awake.
Yeah.
What do you feel about that?
It's, I've gained tremendously strides in this area, but I sometimes do look at other people and I'm not going to lie, I have some judgment on them not doing the work and not doing things that could help improve them. And then when I look at that and see myself judging them, I realize I'm just judging myself for not doing the work. And here I am doing all the work. And I know there's still more work to be done because I'm still here. But it's like this vicious cycle of, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and then you dance in a circle, and I don't know, but
I mean, I think that's the nature of reality, right? No matter what. I mean, I would imagine that all of my super fit, Iron Man friends, that wake up at 4:00 in the morning to go to the gym, see me, and they're probably like, if you just walked around the block for 5 fucking minutes, you'd feel better, like those TikToks that are like, oh, I don't feel well. I wonder what I need. And your body's like, drink water. And you're like, maybe I need some retail therapy. Drink water, like, so, for me, I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily judgment, but it's almost like, I don't even know if the word is disappointment. It's not. It's more like, man, I wish you knew what it was like on this side of it, right? And I know, like, our friend Vicky, who's so good with food and who tries her best to guide me, like, you know, when I have the bandwidth to give it the attention it needs, I have incredible results, right? And it's the same thing with this type of work. When you have the bandwidth to give it the attention it needs, then you will see amazing results. And I get it. I get it on all sides. You know, I'm sure that Grant Cardone looks at us and he's like, why are you not 10xing your life? It's so simple. Right? Right? Just do the work, Julietta.
Just do the work. Yes.
Speaking of which, tell everybody about the likes. Let's 10x that.
Tell everybody what?
About liking our posts.
Oh, yes. I see there are some people watching us right now. If you would do us the huge favor and just put your little cursor over that thumbs up button and click it, that would light up my life. Just click the like button. It's so easy. It doesn't cost any money, and it really helps support the show and keep it moving forward. Woo! All right. Should we bring on our guest? Let's do it. Dun, 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 dun. Welcome, Sara.
Hi, ladies. Thank you for having me. Good to be with you all.
So we both know, like, love you so much, but probably not everybody in our audience does. So could you please take a moment and introduce yourself, tell them who you are, what you do, and what keeps you passionate about what you do?
So my name is Sara O'Malley, and I'm just here as a student of life, really, on this earth right now. I work as a speech pathologist, which is the same thing as a speech therapist. And what really keeps me passionate is just living a heart-centered life and seeing what's possible resultant of that. And that's really been a huge theme of my life in the last few years. And it makes really every day an adventure, seeing what can be created by living in that heart-centered kind of way.
It takes a conscious effort, does it not, to wake up each day with this purpose? Yes,
it sure does. Yeah, and it's a wonderful endeavor. It's so worthwhile.
You know, I don't know how many years have I known you, Sara, but a lot.
Almost 20.
That is so crazy. But one thing that I just remember from the very beginning meeting Sara is, like, every client that she works with, but I also feel like every human that you interact with, I feel like you always are giving them 100% plus of your intention, your love, your goodwill, your light. And I also see you going back to the Judge Judy of Julietta, you know, like, I'm making myself sound horrible today, but, you know, I just even remember so many times where I would, you know, see something in someone that I didn't approve of, and Sara would always find a way to, like, show me the light in that person. And, you're just a really special person, and I appreciate you so much.
Wow, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I'm really grateful to hear that translates and that's perceived by other people, because sometimes your aim is to, you know, have a certain intention with something, or to present yourself in a certain way. And sometimes that comes across pretty clearly, and sometimes it doesn't. It's funny when you say that, because I do intend to live in that way. And for me, a big part of that is not being super connected with technology. Don't get me wrong. I do love my cell phone, and it's often on my person, and it's often not on my person. It's mostly on silent, and it's not something that I have much of an attachment to. And I really appreciate leaving it behind, and that I have a job where it's not appropriate most of the time to be accessible by a cell phone, because it's a valid reason that people accept more readily as to why I rarely answer the phone, because it's almost always on silent. But I feel like that allows me the space not just to be present with a person and not distracted by the cell phone or what might be trying to get my attention, but you have a deeper connection with people on a more internal level, that you're not constantly thinking, oh, I wonder who's responding to me, or what's going on this little device. So I feel like being able to set that down is a very freeing thing to do, to really connect with people on that deep level.
Yeah, it becomes a challenge when technology is part of what helps your business grow.
Yeah.
And so how do you separate like doing what you need to do to keep the business moving forward, and when can I let it rest and just participate in life?
I think it's a mind mastery tool, like I don't think technology should be vilified. I think that, like everything else, how you use it can be good or bad, right? A shovel can plant a tree and kill a person, right? So, it's not the thing that's bad, it's what we do with it, right? So, I personally, I like technology. I love the doors that it opens and the opportunity that it creates. And it's a super slippery slope to see how easily you can lose time, and inadvertently create feelings in you that you don't want, right? So I think it takes such an enormous amount of intentionality, right? Because you can avoid getting in your car and going somewhere you don't want to go to. Like that's an easy decision. You don't have to be around people that you don't like, or that aren't aligned with you or whatever. But with social media, it comes at you. It's almost like turning on the news, right? Like it bombards you as opposed to you looking for it. So I think it's putting that intention of what do you want to get out of it. I have found so many answers and have seen such beautiful communities created out of social media. I think it's an incredible way to reconnect when we haven't been able to, because of the way we live, because we are so far. Like, Sara, I love you to death. I don't think we've ever sat down for a cup of coffee. Like, I just found out your last name today, and I have shared so much time and space with you, so it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get Sara to come to one of our 7:30 a.m. coffee, or not coffee, cacao classes.
I would love to do that, especially at that time of day, to set the tone for the day. Cacao drinking is something that I know all three of us share a love for, and it's one of the many ways in which these blessed plants that we're on this earth with can really give back to us. And again, bringing you back to the heart center, living that heart-centered, intentional kind of way. And to kind of loop back a little bit to the social media or use of technology, I think so much, and I'm really still on this journey and discovering the power of intention setting and the specificity with which you do that. So sometimes when I do go on social media, I'll actually set an alarm for myself, because time management is for sure not my strong suit, and I know this. So I'll say, all right, I'll let myself become engrossed in this for 15 minutes, and then when it's done, I'm going to try to be done. And this, and to allow yourself what you want to get out of that time. Maybe it's just mindless, letting yourself absorb whatever decides to come at you. And then when you're with a person, even if you do need to be in touch with your phone in case something's coming through to you, if you really set your intention for what you want to see and create in that time and space with that person, and the more specific I am about it, I am just consistently blown away by, through that, how much we can actually create what we want to see showing up in our lives, instead of just kind of going with the flow. I do enjoy going with the flow and seeing where the breeze might blow me, and that's a great thing to do sometimes, but not.
But even that can be done intentionally.
Well, exactly. That, hey, this is my overall intention. I'm going to put it out there and then just be open and see where it goes.
I think going with the flow is different than subjecting yourself to things you don't want to be subjected to, right? Like, just because someone invites me somewhere that I don't want to go to, me being in flow means I get to say no, right? It doesn't mean I'm going to go and be miserable because I didn't want to go in the first place. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can still be very intentional and be in the flow at the same time, for sure.
Yes.
I love that you're sharing how heart-centered existence shows up for you. I'm hearing being fully present come up a lot. How did you get here? Like, what is the story to what limiting belief did you have to let go of to realize, like, hey, this heart-centered way of being brings me more joy?
I think for me, the biggest thing, and I laugh when I think about this now, is when I was young, when I was a teenager and when I was in my early adulthood. And I thought it was a funny thing to say because I really believed it was true. I had a lot of odd things happen to me, or things that were, definitely not the desired intention. And I would jokingly say, well, I'm just a victim of circumstance. And I really believed that because I thought, well, gosh, these weird things keep happening to me, and it's just what happens in my life. And so I didn't recognize at that time what a unempowered victim mentality that was, because I just thought that that's just how life was, at least how my life was. And once I was able to let go of that through a lot of deep diving into who I really am, what makes me me, and getting through a lot of layers that I didn't even know existed, I realized, boy, God has blessed me with the ability to not only rely on my divine source for guidance and protection and really all that I need, but that I really play a critical role in that as well. And that by dropping into the heart and being intentional, that I don't need to be a victim of circumstance, that I was unintentionally creating those circumstances that were not what I wanted. And I was inviting them into my life and I didn't even realize it. So I just, thank goodness, I started with a program called gratitude training. And I would say that was really, it's a self-development program. And that really started to break the shell open for me in realizing I don't need to be a victim of circumstance. If I choose to do that and live in that way, then that's my choice and that's okay. And those are the results that it creates. But if I start to acknowledge that I do have a big role in creating what is shown for me and what is, what shows up in my life, that really the sky is limitless. And I just continue to be blown away consistently as I grow deeper in a meditation practice and in a lot of different heart-centered practices and ways of being at what's possible. So it's really an exciting thing. you know, so as a speech therapist, and I work in a hospital, I deal in, I'm immersed in the medical world quite a bit. And I really enjoy working in, I love working in a hospital. It's a blast. And I also love a lot of things that have no part in a hospital. So for me, being able to bring those things together, those passions, that knowledge is really powerful. And I was just blown away and so intrigued and excited when I learned that the heart actually has its own nervous system. And there's more connections going from the heart to the brain than there are from the brain to the heart. And so as I've continued to lean more into that and also encouraged the people that I work with or that I just interact with in my personal life to lean more into that, it's incredible how much you can modulate pain, which is something that I dealt with for quite a long time in my life. And you can affect your thoughts and your physical body so much more than I ever had any idea, just by tapping into your heart. And it's just such a beautiful thing.
Well, and it's so funny that you're bringing up, like science is catching up to so many things that are known but are not accepted because science hasn't proven it yet. But I'm not an acupuncturist, and I don't mean to offend any acupuncturists or practitioners of Chinese medicine out there, but I have taken a lot of training in that realm. And one of the things that I was taught very early on, the meridian systems, the brain, all the other organs are represented, but the brain is not represented in the meridian system. And it was explained to me that the heart controls the mind. Like so anything related to do with the heart or to the mind is the heart. And so it's like Chinese medicine knew this, thousands of years ago, and here science is just figuring it out now.
Mm-hmm. I heard a quote recently by Michael Singer that I thought was so interesting, that there's really three aspects that we experience our consciousness through. And they are the environment around us and the things coming in towards us from the environment, the thoughts that our brain generates, and then the emotions generated by the heart. And I just, for the first several decades of my life, I had never had any concept that we actually have control over those things. And it all comes from the heart, that by tapping into your heart and allowing those thoughts in the mind, whether they are judgment, which is certainly something that I've been working to release, to just experience things and be an observer and not be judgmental about things. And then to also think, boy, this is showing up for me, and I'm having these thoughts that are created in my mind because of it, because it's trying to show my heart something that is reflective of me, that I really wouldn't be having what I would perceive to be a negative reaction to something or emotion to something if it wasn't like, hey, Sarah, check me out. This is present in you. And if you acknowledge and address this will really do you well. And then through taking charge of the emotions and the thoughts, that we can affect those things in our environment that come into us. I had always thought it was the other way around, that I was just a random recipient of all these things in my environment coming into me that affected my thoughts, which then affected my emotions. And it come to find out, it was really a backwards perception of how it actually is in reality.
Yeah. And I think that's also a side effect of just the growing up process, you know, like watching my children grow up. They're now 14 and they're transitioning to more awareness, right? Because their last 14 years of their life has been stimulation input and then reaction to the input, right? Like it just is what it is. And then I think, like, you ever notice that it's always women our age having this conversation? Like it's people our age having this conversation. Why doesn't this conversation happen at 15? Well, our brains aren't there yet, you know? So I think a big element to this type of heart-centered growth is forgiveness too. Like that judgment, you know, word that keeps coming up. It's also because you're judging yourself, right? Like, why am I this way? Why do I think this? How come I do this? And like, forgive your little baby brain. Like your brain is just one little tiny piece of your, you know, body, of your existence. And for all it does, you know, thank you for keeping me breathing and blinking and, you know, all the organs doing their things, like mission control, like kick ass, I love you. And also sometimes the brain's a little stupid, you know, like sometimes the brain like sees a danger that isn't really there, or, you know, creates a reality that isn't real, or creates a judgment that's really on an evolutionary level trying to keep me alive, you know? So sometimes I have to catch myself and say, hey, brain, I see that you're judging this person because you deem them to be dangerous. But if I just stop and look with my heart, I see that they're not dangerous, that it's just some story that we created, you know, and now we're going to get past it. Right. So like, I really have been taking like really good care and love to my brain, because my heart is like, I don't know, it's easier than my brain. Does that make sense? Like it's easy to come from the heart, but the brain is like always getting in the way. That's how I see it, you know? I don't know if that makes sense, but I kind of feel like I have to baby my brain a little bit. Like, okay, you're being silly, but come on, let's go. Let me let the heart show you the truth.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. It's I don't know how we get more people out there other than just doing it ourselves, to really shift into our own hearts and show people, you know, lead by example, be the change you want to see in the world. And but it never ceases to amaze me that when I sit in my heart and come from my heart, that everything around me changes. And the people, you know, it's like I can't change anybody, but I can change me. But when I change me, the people around me change. And even looking at like creating the people that are in my life. When I moved to Florida, I spent so much time alone and not having friends. I've often shared the story. I had a miscarriage alone at home on a Tuesday morning because my husband was out of the country and I did not have a single friend that I felt close enough to call and say, hey, can you leave work and come sit with me while I go through this? And back then I judged it as, well, that's because that's how Floridians are. And I just can't connect to these Floridians. And I had to change myself to be able to manifest the beautiful women that, like you two, that are in my life right now. And so, you know, I didn't, the only thing you can change is yourself. And so by changing me and my perception of things and really sinking into the heart and connecting with what you want in your life, it will manifest.
Absolutely. I don't know who said it, so I apologize for that, but a quote that I think it's been quoted by many people, that when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. And I work in a pretty large hospital. There's a huge staff there. And for so long, I had this mindset that I just need to, and I think it was driven into me for a long time by other people or around me, and just beliefs that I had, that I just sort of need to stay to myself and keep quiet and stay in my lane, and that was my role. And I really realized that the more I open up to people and the more I go first and share things, especially if they're positive things with people, that it completely changes things. I mean, who doesn't like to hear a compliment? And in the past, I've been out and I've complimented somebody, and someone who's been with me has said, why would you say that? You know, just keep that to yourself. I don't know if that person wants to hear that from you in particular. And so okay, shove those things back inside. And I realize now, and I'm so grateful that I'm in the work setting that I am for a variety of reasons. It's kind of become like my playground to be able to, on a personal level, throw these things out there with such a wide variety of different people, and so many of them, and see what happens. And now I walk down the hallways, and people that I wouldn't have even really thought knew that I existed comment on something small, and they say things that make me realize I can have a lot of influence on people. I think especially if you're on either end of the spectrum, it's probably more strongly perceived, so I choose to be on the positive spectrum and really go hard with that. And it just it has such a synergistic effect. And the more I drop my limiting beliefs, my apprehensions about myself, and I just am able to drop into living authentically and speaking authentically, and realizing, you know what, if that person doesn't want to hear that, that's okay. Like, that's their choice, and I have no problem with that. And even if they say something, that I perceive to be not very kind in response, that's okay too, because that's how they feel, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the more I keep putting that out there, the more I keep receiving what I'm really looking for in life. And then it just keeps growing, because like you said, then you wind up with this tribe of people around you who are vibrating at a similar frequency. And everything in life has a frequency to it, even the inanimate things. So you just keep attracting what your focus is, and gosh, there's so much power in that. One of my hobbies is riding a mountain bike. Obviously in Florida there's no mountains, but there's pretty great trail systems here. And I think that because I'm very focused and there's not a lot of outside distractions that are able to come into my mind during that activity, because it's pretty all encompassing. I'm going to run into a tree or run myself off the trail or something like that. If I'm not pretty focused, that I really am very open to receiving these divinely inspired messages through that activity. And one of them that's really keeps coming on strongly to me, and I found it to be so true in so many areas of life, is what you focus on, you are going to attract. So a lot of times in the past, I would see the tree that I didn't want to run into, and I'd look at it and think about how much I wanted to avoid it, and I'd run into it. But if it's all about balance, because I think then I went to the other end of the spectrum, where I was like, I am just going to focus on where I want to go. And that's an incredibly powerful tool on the bike trail and in life. And I've realized just recently the degree to which I do need to still keep those obstacles and the things that I want to avoid in my peripheral vision. If I focus on them too much, then unintentionally that becomes my target, which is not what I want. And if I ignore them completely or push them too far out of my peripheral vision, that doesn't work out the best either. So acknowledging them and acknowledging that they belong there and not to be fearful of them. And hey, yeah, you're there. I'm just going to go right around you, and that's okay. and then being able to translate that into how I live my life and what is present in my life and what isn't. And so when those obstacles, especially the really challenging ones that are just a part of life, instead of being fearful of it and like, digging my heels in to try to avoid it, that I can look at those things and say, hey, I see you. And I know that you're here for a purpose, and it's a good purpose, and to acknowledge that, and it makes the passage through just so much smoother. So a lot of gratitude for that.
So this conversation has been so interesting, and I'm looking at the time, and I can't imagine that we would have an episode without asking this question. I think Graciela might I don't know, explode or something. But we are building our goddess library. And Sara, we want to know, what book would you add to our goddess library? What book do you think everyone should read?
The book that in recent time has been the most impactful for me is Many Lives, Many Masters. And for me, it just really blew things wide open. I can talk more about that, but I don't want to go over time. But Many Lives, Many Masters. Dr. Weiss is the name of the author. His first name,
Brian.
Thank you. Amazing book. Highly recommend.
It's one of my favorite books. And actually, as you get into it, don't miss out on the conversations that he has had with other spiritual leaders, because it's really beautiful to see how all belief systems intertwine really beautifully. And that I saw him live a couple of times, and it's really cool. It's really cool. Thank you for sharing that one.
That was the thing for me. So I was, do I have time to briefly go into this?
Yeah, of course.
So I was raised with Christianity as a very strong foundation of my life. And I'm going to be eternally grateful for that because I love Jesus. What an amazing teacher. And for me, Jesus has really, always been and continues to be a guiding aspect of my life. But in the context of that, I never had any consideration that reincarnation was a thing. But there was a lot of different things, and probably by people who for sure did not think that they were sparking this thought in me, but I was always curious about it. And so by reading that book, and that it came from the standpoint of a person who was very skeptical and had this scientific medical background, it really allowed me to look at things in a different way and to have a more open mind, and to realize that at least for me and in my understanding of God, who's certainly a pivotal force in my life, that my concept of God and a divine creator of everyone and everything is so much bigger than any one faith, and just the degree of oneness that really exists in this world that can seem so very divided, and the oneness that's in my life, in my soul, amongst all of us. And so really being able to get to know that on a deeper level has opened me up to a lot, and to a lot of different experiences that I may not have been open to otherwise. So yeah, it's a phenomenal book.
So beautiful. I love listening to you, Sara. You are absolutely hereby RSVP'd, obligated to come to our cacao classes and ceremonies. I would love to continue this conversation. I really enjoy how you express yourself and the breadth of your expression. So thank you for being you.
Thank you for having me here, ladies, and thank you for being in my life. You both have had a really powerful and positive influence. I appreciate that.
I love you. All right. I think that's a wrap, everyone. Thanks for tuning in and joining us this morning. And I want to wish you all a magical day.
Bye.